Maria from the Lemon Hound, and I teach textiles, and I'm also a florist.
And I'm Charlotte. I'm owner of Moo Like, which is a children's retail business. And we are here to talk to you about identifying and valuing transferable skills. So my background, I was an actor briefly for a few years, and then I went to study, I did a degree in digital filmmaking, and then I worked in the film industry, in distribution and technology, and a very corporate part of the film industry, until I had 2 kids, and then packed it in to open a retail business. And that's what I do now.
Fantastic. My background, I've had many jobs, probably too many to mention in this short film. I started life as a nurse, but quickly discovered that wasn't really for me, and my creative pursuits sort of took over really. So I've done everything from working in a supermarket, babysitting, working at Gatwick Airport, and then I found myself with my own florist. And so I ran a business for a few years as a florist in Folkestone, and now I teach textile workshops alongside doing floristry as sort of private events.
So what do you think would be your main transferable skill?
I think because I've done so many different jobs, and mainly customer facing, that probably people skills. Being a nurse and having to deal with obviously it's very difficult sort of situations, people losing loved ones. Strangely enough, I found that most useful when I was working as a florist, because I used to have to deal with customers that were, asking for funeral flowers, or, particularly sort of traumatic times in their life, and I actually felt that did really help me, strangely enough. I mean, it's a bit bizarre, but, and most of my jobs, as I say, have been sort of dealing with the public, and I just think all walks of life, and I've taken that through, every job that I've ever done, really.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
I think the one that I found most useful, it was unexpected. When I worked in a more corporate environment, I'm naturally quite apologetic and soft, but I had to sort of adopt this mindset where I had to be demanding and direct, and sort of demand a very high level of service. And as long as you're kind to everyone and respect everybody that you work with, when something goes wrong and you don't need to be confrontational, you can be direct. It's not personal. The business needs you to get something done, and it was that something because it didn't come naturally to me. I had to learn it in my last job, that corporate mindset. And when I first switched to my career and ran a retail business, because it was my own business, I sort of went back to that soft apologetic. It was a bit useless really, and I had to consciously remember how I used to be and the way I'd learned to behave. And now I do adopt that big corporate attitude, even though my company doesn't have the clout that I used to work for bigger companies that had financial spending power, and I don't have it at all. But I behave in a way, and it helps when I deal with my suppliers and I need a certain level of service or a certain quality of product, so that I can then pass that on to my customers. So yeah, that whole corporate hard-nosed attitude, but in a respectful way.
Yeah.
That's my most useful transferable skill. So what else have you identified and valued?
Well, so in between having all these hundreds of jobs, I also had a family, and I still have 3 children, but when my toddler was 3, I then had twin girls, and I decided that I was going to start a florist business. I don't know quite why it was that time, but anyway, I did it, and it was very successful. But what I learned from kind of life skills really was how to juggle time, how to run a team, actually bringing up the children and working at the same time was a real juggling act, but I did it. And I think that it taught me sort of a valuable lesson that actually you don't have to have skills from job to job. It can actually be from your life experiences,
Yeah.
you know, from dealing with the finances, planning events, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And you've got a family as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
You're juggling that now.
I think that I used to having a family and feeling like everything's going wrong and you're not coping, which I think is normal,
Yeah.
especially when they're young. The kids are young, and it's similar to jobs I've had where I've been afraid to say no and I've taken on too much,
Yeah.
and you're spinning all these plates and everything's falling down around you, but you have to put on this front that everything's okay and you're in control. And you do the same with parenting when you're in public. And your kids are going mad, and you can't just lose it. You just got to, and that's a real skill. That's my main skill. I think I've learned from having a family and having jobs that I can't cope with, because I think that I can't really cope with being a parent. So it's I sort of identify them as the same. But you're right, project managing. Although I don't think I've ever successfully managed my finances in terms of family. But yeah, the skills that you learn from life are transferable to work. Definitely.
When we first looked at this, there was a sort of temptation to say, I don't have any skills from, I couldn't identify. We spent ages thinking, what? And then actually sitting down just thinking sensibly,
Yeah.
Everybody's got them.
Yeah, they're much easier to see in hindsight. Once you've transferred the skill and applied it to something else and used it, you can then go, oh, that was a really interesting transferable skill. But when you're looking forward, in fact, I felt like a fraud doing this, because a couple of weeks ago I thought to myself, maybe I'll just get a job as well as the business. You know?
Yes.
And I went looking for jobs and I thought, I can't do any of this. So all that mind, but I know that all the skills that I've learned from life and previous jobs, every one of them have been transferable, but I only value them and identify them after the fact.
But we're not very good at identifying, are we, the skills that we have. It's very easy to be negative and say, all the things that we can't do.
Yeah.
As opposed to what you can do.
Yeah. And sometimes it is just an experience or a frame of mind, or my practical skill, my only practical skill that I transferred.
I don't think that's the only one, but yeah.
is I went to an interview early on in my film career, and I think I aced the interview, but I had to sit a basic skills Excel test, which I completely failed. I didn't even know how to copy and paste. Completely failed it. And they sat me down afterwards and they said, "We're really sorry, you did a great interview, but we can't take you on because you need basic Excel skills." And my dignity went out the window, and I begged for this job. And I said, "Please, I will learn. I will give me a week, and I will know Excel." And I think it just got so awkward. They gave me the job.
Did they?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And I read Excel for Dummies cover to cover in a weekend, because I had the interview I think on a Thursday and I started on a Monday.
Oh my God.
And I read it, and it was the best thing I ever did. And I use Excel for every aspect of my life, and work and personal life. And when I grew through my career, I was always like the Excel expert in the office, just because I'd read Excel for Dummies. But that was a skill that I actively went out and learned.
Yes.
And that has transferred through everything. I couldn't live without a good spreadsheet now.
So it's on your CV.
Yeah.
Forevermore.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Excel for dummies now.
Oh,
You can copy and paste.
Yeah, I went from like 0 to hero.
Fantastic. What else?
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's all we've got. Shall I pause?
So we're going to talk about what we did before our careers now.
So I went to a performing arts school, so I left and was an actor for a few years because I thought I loved it. But then gradually, after a few years, I found I didn't like auditioning because I felt anxious, and I didn't like the first read through, the first day of rehearsals. I felt anxious because I wasn't very good at sight reading. I was a bit dyslexic. And I kept thinking all these stages of the job, I thought, I'll enjoy it, it's worth it because I enjoy the next stage, But gradually I realised I didn't like any of it. Even being on stage I felt anxious. And I like doing particular types of acting or comedy, but you can't really pick what you do when you're starting out as an actor. You've got to just do anything. And there's always this feeling of however hard you work, it doesn't matter. You're not going to be successful because you work hard. You're successful if someone's opinion of you is high. If the director or the person who's auditioning you, the casting director, likes what you're doing. And I felt frustrated. I wanted to work in a place where you worked hard and studied and gained knowledge, and then you're paid a salary because of that knowledge and experience and hard work you've done. So that's what made me, I quit acting and I went to study, and I did a digital film degree because I wanted to be a film editor. And I think I learnt within weeks. I was just terrible at it. I did the whole degree, I blanked the whole degree and came out and sort of fell into film. I just was looking at any old film job that I could get into, entry level, and I just found myself in a really niche part of the film industry because I would always go for the job that no one else wanted to do because it seemed boring, but I found it fascinating. I loved working in the film industry, but I did get into this niche part of the industry, which is when I wanted to quit eventually and do something else. I thought my skills are so niche and what I've learned is so specific to this tiny area. So it was scary making the leap. And then the reason I opened a shop is because I just wanted something that I could work. It was my own business, so I had the flexibility of time, and I had young kids, and I thought if it was a kids shop, they'd be able to play in the shop.
That's so funny, but it's good. I mean,
it's funny that I thought that would work. Because it's
but it does work. It's a fantastic business.
Yeah, so that was mine. But looking at jobs, I would often look at jobs, and you look at the skill set, at the skills that you need, and you think, well, I can't do that, can't do that, I can't do that. But
I think that is a bit of a problem. Something that's quite well known is that we're very good at identifying what we can't do rather than what we can do.
Yeah. And you can blag it. The skill to blag is a skill.
Well, I've always thought, even if I knew a fraction of what there are, so like maybe if they've said that they need skills in Word or Excel, like we've spoken about.
Yeah.
Even if I know a little bit, I know that I can learn on the job. So I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I think you've got to be fairly confident that you can learn on the job. Don't be put off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Small detail.
All these the ones that I would go for would have must know like this software or must know this system. And if you've learned a software, or a system, like your banking or something, then you can learn any of the stuff. And I've gone off.
Or I used to put on my CV, quick to learn, eager to learn new systems.
Yeah.
And that hopefully covers that.
I don't like job descriptions. So what's your progression from what you did in
quite a few jobs in my life. I think I've spent my whole life looking for the perfect job. I haven't quite found it yet.
Have you given up?
Do you think it exists?
No, it doesn't exist.
I love working, actually. I've worked all my life, even through having, when the children were really young. But I started life as a carer, so I did nursing, general nursing, and I did find that quite tough, actually. I was very young when I was a nurse and found it quite traumatic. So I left that to pursue a more creative pathway and went to study in Oxford and did a foundation in art design. And whilst I was studying there, I did a little part-time job in a florist, which I absolutely loved it. I just thought, God, this is fantastic. I can use my skills in colour and texture and put them together with beautiful flowers, and it felt right. And a few years down the line, I went from managing a florist in London and doing all sorts of exciting things there to owning my own business in Folkestone, which coincided with having a very young family, which I think I visual motive, but what else have I done? All sorts of things. So I left that floristry business a few years ago and then went on and worked in a supermarket. You know, I've done, like, obviously, you know, we've just come out of lockdown. My business has taken a bit of a hit with all my weddings and workshops have dried up. So I've looked at other ways of earning money, and I do another care job. I sort of come full circle. But, you know, I've just kind of adapted and taken on other things. I don't put myself into, like you were saying about, you know, being in kind of a niche area. I like to kind of just spread my wings and but I've done all sorts of things, but mostly my jobs have been customer facing. I like working with the public
and teaching as well.
I enjoy teaching. And that's been a way for me to make my kind of creative business work, really, because it's very difficult, I think, to make money out of what I make, because it's so labour intensive. I can't, you know, so I've had to look at other ways, so diversify, I suppose.
Why do you think you didn't go straight into something creative?
I was just going to blame the schooling, but when I was at school, it was a funny old time, really. I was never made to believe that I would ever do anything other than I was never made to believe that I could go to university, which was absolutely rubbish, really. I could have done that. And they said to me, you know, you like art, but you're never going to make a living out of it, so just do it as a hobby, which I did. And then I thought a bit later on, now I'll go and do my art A-level on the side and the foundation. And, you know, I just kind of wish that I'd had somebody at the school saying, do you know what, you can do that. It's a bit different now, I think. But I always try and push my children. I'm living my life through my children.
I don't like art. Stop it.
Go to art college, it'd be fantastic. Why don't you become a potter? It'd be amazing. No, Mum,
that's so
no,
nice.
I want to do politics. Oh, come on. Being a potter is much more useful.
Anyone watch that far? So if you haven't fallen asleep already, you can do it.